So this is my last video on the last day before the 2024 election. This may be the last message you see from me before you go and vote if you haven't already voted early. So I got to make it impactful, right? It's got to be special. It's got to be my closing argument for the 2024 election. So that kind of put a lot of pressure on me to figure out what the hell I'm going to say to you before you go to the polls. So here it is. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions against him, and he will be sentenced, as of right now, on November 26th by Judge Juan Merchan for those 34 felony convictions. If Donald Trump wins tomorrow, that sentencing will never happen. All of those other pending trials against Donald Trump will likely never happen if he wins tomorrow. A former prosecutor at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office actually went on CNN recently, spoke to a CNN reporter about the fact that if Trump doesn't win, there's a good chance he's going to jail. So she, this former prosecutor, is doing her part in reminding people that, hey, he is a convicted felon, and if you put him back in the White House, he will never have to pay for his crimes. Here's what she said. The woman was Karen Friedman Agnifilo, and she said, quote, "It's 50-50 that he gets sentenced in November. If he loses the election, I think he gets sentenced. And I think he gets sentenced to prison. If he wins, I don't think this goes forward. Effectively, winning a second term is his get-out-of-jail-free card," she said. And that is what is at stake. Trust me, there is so much more at stake than that, okay? Don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying the significance of anything else. But at the end of the day, this man is a convicted felon. And Republicans have been telling us for 4 years that Democrats are soft on crime. Democrats aren't making criminals go to jail. Well, we're trying. We really are, I promise you. November 12th. Judge Merchan is going to hold a hearing. That hearing, Judge Merchan is going to listen to Donald Trump's lawyers, tell him why the case should be thrown out because Donald Trump has presidential immunity. If Trump wins the election tomorrow, I have no doubt that Merchan is going to side with Donald Trump's lawyers and say, yes, we'll give you immunity, case dismissed. If he loses tomorrow, Merchan is going to say, thank you for coming in for the argument. Appreciate it. See you on November 26th for your sentencing. Get the hell out of my court. But it all depends on what happens tomorrow. CNN reporter Kara Scannell went further. She added, if you look at what this election means for Donald Trump, it's obviously the potential presidency, but it also could make the difference between whether he serves any time in jail and, most specifically, whether he gets sentenced is going to have an impact on any of his criminal cases. There are still several outstanding, but the sentencing is the one that's most urgent and could mean the difference between being behind bars and being a free man. Now, a lot of lawyers and retired judges I spoke to say that they think this will really turn on it because if Donald Trump wins the election, then it means that he's going to have a roadmap of legal challenges that he will try to pursue. If he rules in favor of Trump in the immunity hearing, it's over, that's the end of it. If he rules against Trump, then his lawyers are going to launch a series of challenges because the distance between that decision on the 12th and his scheduled sentencing date is 2 weeks. So they will be asking every judge, that judge, Merchan, appeals courts, maybe even up to the Supreme Court, to stop the sentencing so they can challenge that other legal challenges that they're working on, try to move this case from state court to federal court. Also, just in general, they're going to be challenging this conviction. So if Trump is the president-elect, you might see some of these courts agree that he shouldn't be sentenced. He's going to be taking over the country. That would be a distraction. And honestly, I think calling that a distraction is about the understatement of the century, right? Like, hey, if he's in prison while president, that's going to be a little distracting. No, that's going to be a little embarrassing. That's going to be humiliating for the United States that we elected a convicted felon that then got sentenced to prison. She continues. But if he's not the president-elect, then a lot of lawyers think that his sentencing day will come. It may not be 2 weeks after that November 12th decision. It could get delayed, just a couple of months. But they do think he could be sentenced in this case within the next 6 months. And that, of course, is realistic. But it's only realistic if he loses the election. That's on us. That's on all of us. We have to make that happen by showing up and voting against him. Voting for somebody that actually has a chance of winning the Electoral College, by the way. I'm not dissuading anyone from voting third party, but, that doesn't help anybody. Your candidate's not going to win this cycle. So do what you can, vote the way you can to make sure this man doesn't get away with it. Because it's not just the New York case. It's the federal January 6th case, the election subversion case. It's the Georgia case. It's potentially the documents case, assuming that one does get reinstated by the appellate court, which I think it will if he doesn't win the election. If he does win, that case ain't ever coming back. He'll just pardon himself even if it does. Same thing with the January 6th federal case. Georgia may be a different story. They're obviously not going to prosecute him while he's president. The case would be put on ice if it is allowed to go forward at all. And then they'd do it 4 years later with definitely a new prosecutor, and it would probably go nowhere. In other words, everything hinges on what happens tomorrow. That is what is at stake. Either Donald Trump is going to be the leader of the United States and lead us down a path that none of us ever thought we would go down, or he's the one that will go down for the criminal actions that he has been convicted for. And keep in mind, even if Merchan does not sentence him to actual time behind bars, because I do think that's a little far-fetched. I don't think Merchan is going to send Donald Trump to an actual jail, but he could, and I think he should. But part of the reason he may not is because Trump has no priors, and that's what his lawyers will argue in sentencing. But you know what they won't be able to do? They won't be able to make that same argument in any of the other cases. So the other cases become even more important because if he gets convicted in any of those, you can't say he has no priors. He has 34 priors. He could have 38 priors by the time the Georgia case rolls around. So, yes, the sentencing is important whether or not he goes behind bars because one of these other cases could put him there. But none of them will put him there if he wins tomorrow. So please, America, I'm begging you, vote accordingly. And let's please not put a convicted felon in the White House. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.